Interview with Mr. Jan Myrdal, member of the Association of Friendship Sweden-Kampuchea. Phnom Penh, August 24, 1978. Department of Press and Information, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Democratic Kampuchea. Comrade Pol Pot, General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Kampuchea, Prime Minister of the Government of Democratic Kampuchea, received and had friendly and warm talks with the delegation of the Association of Friendship Sweden-Kampuchea on August 24, 1978. On this occasion, Comrade Secretary Pol Pot gave an interview with Jan Myrdal, member of the delegation, for Swedish television.
Your Excellency, what do you consider to be the main achievements during the 3.5 years of Democratic Kampuchea?
During these past 3.5 years, the prominent result achieved by Democratic Kampuchea is that Democratic Kampuchea has put into pieces successively the schemes and activities of interference, subversion, attempts at coup d'état and aggression perpetrated by enemies of all kinds, especially the Vietnamese enemy aggressors, annexationists and swallowers of territories. The monolithic union of the people and the Revolutionary Army of Kampuchea under the leadership of the Communist Party of Kampuchea has successively crushed all attempts at coup d'état and large-scale aggressions perpetrated since the end of 1977 by Vietnam, who aimed at taking possession of Democratic Kampuchea at once, so that Kampuchea and her people would become Vietnamese. That is a grand victory of far-reaching and historic significance won by the people of Democratic Kampuchea in defending their independence, sovereignty, the territorial integrity of their country, their national honor and dignity, and their race. Indeed, the Vietnamese are not only as barbarous and cruel as the colonialists, neo-colonialists or imperialists, but they are even 1,000 times more than the latter. In conformity with its strategy of Indochina Federation, Vietnam wants to take possession of the territory and people of Kampuchea at once, so that they become Vietnamese, that is, to eliminate the race of Kampuchea. The other prominent results are as follows. 1. In the economic and financial fields, Democratic Kampuchea is independent and sovereign, and can supply herself. On one hand, Democratic Kampuchea has completely abolished the exploiting and oppressive economic and financial regime of imperialism, colonialism, neo-colonialism and all exploiting classes. On the other hand, the Kampuchean people have built up a new economy in full independence, sovereignty and self-reliance, and totally solved the food problem. Everyone receives on average 312 kilograms of paddy per year, and there is a surplus for exportation. Agriculture now has a strong foundation thanks to small, medium and big hydraulic projects that our people have achieved and are carrying out everywhere in the country in conformity with well-defined annual plans. In 1978, almost 700,000 hectares of land have already been irrigated. A new agriculture was born and is in full development. The landscape of the new countryside is changing from year to year. 2. The cottage industry, technology and sciences, having a people's mass characteristic, have begun to progressively take a new shape in conformity with the principle of being independent, sovereign and self-reliant, and in relying fundamentally on the people's forces. 3. The conditions of living of the people have greatly changed in all fields. On one hand, the people have totally eliminated depravity, debauchery, delation, banditry, prostitution, starvation and toxicomania. A new and sound atmosphere has been created in conformity with the genuine traditions of the nation and people, without exploited and exploiting classes. On the other hand, the whole people have eaten their fill, clothes and housing. Everywhere they profit by medical care and have at their disposal doctors and medical centers, especially in each cooperative. More than 90% of the population know how to read and write. Illiteracy has been fundamentally eliminated. The whole people are developing their knowledge. We are perfectly aware that we have to overcome all kinds of obstacles, to carry on solving many other problems in order to defend and build up our country, and to improve the living conditions of the people. But we are also perfectly aware that all the results achieved during these past 3 years and a half are important results of far-reaching significance in the history of our country, and which has never been achieved since many centuries.
Your Excellency, your government has been accused of genocide. What is your comment on these accusations?
In all past epochs, at present as well as in the future, the enemies of the revolution oppose resolutely the revolution. The great leaders of the world revolutionary movements such as Lenin, and the Great Revolution of October have also been assailed, slandered, disparaged, attacked and accused by the international enemies of the revolution, who have gone so far as to form a coalition in order to perpetrate barbarous acts of invasion and aggression. However, the revolutionaries and the peoples of the world over, who form the overwhelming majority, are for the revolution. As for the revolution of Kampuchea, it has also been cruelly and barbarously slandered, disparaged, attacked, interfered and aggressed by all kinds of enemies of the revolution. But the revolutionaries and the progressists in the world, in general, have supported the Kampuchean revolution and expressed their satisfaction and sympathy with it. The aggressors, expansionists, slaughterers of the peoples of the world over, whose victims number several tens of thousands and millions, and who have massacred and are massacring the Kampuchean people, these are the colonialists, neo-colonialists, imperialists and international expansionists. In their deeds, the US imperialists and their lackeys have massacred more than 1,400,000 people of Kampuchea just during the past 5-year war. And the Vietnamese and their supporters are aggressing and annexing Democratic Kampuchea, aiming at exterminating at the same time the people and the race of Kampuchea. Consequently, those who accuse Kampuchea, these are enemies of the revolution, the imperialists, expansionists, annexationists and international reactionaries who are united in order to overthrow the Kampuchean revolution and subjugate Democratic Kampuchea. And those who support and express their sympathy with the Kampuchean people are the innumerable revolutionaries, and peace and justice-loving progressists throughout the world. The people are the fundamental and determinant factor of the victory of the revolution. The Kampuchean revolution has won over the US imperialist aggressors during the past 5-year war of aggression, for the whole people have participated in the war and made the revolution. At present, Kampuchea can be sufficient in food and has crushed the interferences, subversions and aggressions of the enemies of all kinds, particularly the Vietnamese aggressors, annexationists and swallowers of territories, for the whole people have participated in the struggle and made the revolution.
Your Excellency, there is in fact a war on the frontier between Democratic Kampuchea and Vietnam. What is the cause of this war and how does it affect Democratic Kampuchea?
The cause of the present war between Kampuchea and Vietnam is as follows. On one hand, in conformity with its strategy of Indochina Federation, Vietnam wants to annex and swallow at once Kampuchea and the Kampuchean people, to make them disappear and form then with Vietnam only one Vietnamese country and people. Following this strategy, the Vietnamese have carried out all kinds of maneuvers, interferences and subversions, fomented successive coups aiming at overthrowing by force the Kampuchean revolution and Democratic Kampuchea, making Democratic Kampuchea their satellite and definitively disappear and transform her into an integrant part of Vietnam. Since they could not achieve their ambition through these maneuvers and activities, the Vietnamese and their master have mobilized a great number of their armed forces, up to 14 divisions, to launch attacks of invasion against Kampuchea at the end of 1977, aiming at destroying and swallowing her at one go, following their strategy of lightning attack, lightning victory. But the heroic Kampuchean people, endowed with an ardent patriotism and rich in traditions of struggle to win the independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity of their country, who have inflicted on the U.S. imperialist aggressors the heavy and ignominious defeat of April 17, 1975, in any case, whether during this present generation or the generation to come, will never allow the Vietnamese to aggress, annex and swallow Kampuchean territory. The people and the Revolutionary Army of Kampuchea have counterattacked the Vietnamese enemy aggressors, inflicted on them ignominious defeats, totally crushed their strategy of aggression lightning attack, lightning victory, and driven them into a strategy of protracted struggle in which they are splashing hopelessly. Therefore, on one hand, the present war between Kampuchea and Vietnam is a war provoked by the Vietnamese who have aggressed and tried to annex and swallow Kampuchean territory, aiming at destroying the independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Kampuchea. On the other hand, the Kampuchean people have struggled to defend and hold aloft the banner of independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity of their country against the Vietnamese aggressors, annexationists and swallowers of territories. By their aggression, the Vietnamese have indeed caused some difficulties to the Kampuchean people. But the favorable aspect for Kampuchea is that she has succeeded in defending her territory and defeating the Vietnamese. The Kampuchean people have further discerned the nature of the Vietnamese aggressors, annexationists and swallowers of territories, and the peoples the world over have been further aware of the face of the Vietnamese aggressors and annexationists. All these facts have proved that the Vietnamese have faced numerous and great difficulties in all fields, military, political, economical, social, diplomatic, both at home and abroad.
Your Excellency, what are, according to your government, the preconditions for a peaceful settlement of this conflict?
Democratic Kampuchea does not impose any conditions at all in order to solve this conflict. It is the Vietnamese aggressor, annexationist and swallower of territories, behaving like Hitler, that has imposed conditions on Democratic Kampuchea. Hitler had threatened and aggressed the countries of East Europe and exerted pressure so that they entered into negotiations with him, accepted to comply with him and let him take possession of their territories. Vietnam has acted in the same manner. It has openly aggressed Kampuchea in a barbarous, cruel and fascist way, and after it has said that Democratic Kampuchea has to negotiate with Vietnam. These are conditions. On one hand, Vietnam wants to force Kampuchea to kneel down and accept to be subjugated by it, and on the other hand, Vietnam wants to mislead the public world opinion on its true nature of aggressor, annexationist and swallower of territories. Democratic Kampuchea and her people think that if Vietnam stops its aggression against them, then the war would automatically cease. If Vietnam really respects the independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Kampuchea through concrete acts and in conformity with the principle of non-alignment, Panchasila, United Nations Charter, then, the friendship between the two countries and peoples, Kampuchea and Vietnam, would be automatically established, surely developed and strengthened. In June 1975, during the visit of the high-ranking delegation of the Communist Party of Kampuchea in Hanoi, the Kampuchean side had officially proposed to the Vietnamese side to conclude a friendship and non-aggression treaty between Kampuchea and Vietnam. But the Vietnamese side did not respond to this goodwill of Kampuchea. In spite of this, if Vietnam now ceases its aggression against Kampuchea and accepts to really respect the independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity of Kampuchea through concrete acts, the government of Democratic Kampuchea would propose once again to conclude a friendship and non-aggression treaty with Vietnam. The top leaders of Kampuchea would then put their signatures on this treaty either in Phnom Penh or in Hanoi, if Vietnam has shown that it really wants to have friendship with the Kampuchean people.
Your Excellency, given the possibility of peaceful construction, how do you think Kampuchea will look at the turn of the century? What kind of society would Kampuchea then have become in 20 years' time?
The session of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Kampuchea in May 1975 and the Fourth Congress of the Communist Party of Kampuchea in January 1975 have defined a strategic plan of building up the country, That is, to transform Kampuchea from a backward agricultural country into a country with a modern agriculture within 10 to 15 years, and from an industrially underdeveloped country, into a country with all basic industries within 15 to 20 years. We have all necessary conditions to achieve the objectives of this plan by abiding by the position of independence and sovereignty, and thanks to the correct line of the party, to our dynamic, industrious and creative people, to the collectivist socialist society of Kampuchea, to the important natural agricultural wealth and other resources, on the ground, underground and in the sea. The experiences of the revolutionary movement in building up the country during these more than 3 years have also clearly shown the possibilities of achieving our strategic plan for national construction. We would like to build up our country in favorable conditions and in peace. We do our utmost to create these favorable conditions and peace. But the enemies of all kinds, particularly the Vietnamese aggressors, annexationists and swallowers of territories and their supporters, have made it so that we cannot have peace. They have mobilized their efforts to carry on their aggression and attempts at annexing and swallowing our territory. Our position is to have a peace in full independence and sovereignty, and not a peace in slavery, in losing the independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity. Our people will do their utmost to build up their country in conformity with this strategic plan in all circumstances and eventualities.